There we are. Look.
Here we are. Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, wherever you might be in the world. Look who's here. Oh, and there goes the lights properly. And my emergency light came on. Good. That's good. Hooray. What would it be if we didn't have a power cut at this very, very bloody hour every day? Well, Bruce, we've got to talk about Bruce first before we go anywhere else. So very, very nice to see you back with us. And I hope are you getting sleep and is your health improving?
Yep, things are getting better. I lost 3 kilos. Who disappeared? I lost 3 kilos in a week. It was great.
Oh, shame. That's not good at all. That's not good at all. And dare I ask you about your airfield woes?
Still the same, but I have a strategy for this.
Okay.
It's called not giving a damn.
Not giving a damn. Good. Yeah, that's good. And your YouTube strategy is similar, is it?
Yeah. It's interesting. I've been trying to get CIA to explain why what I plan to do is dangerous, and they can't or they won't. So I'm assuming that it's not. I had a phone call with them the other day, and my goodness, the bureaucracy and it's just unbelievable. The pragmatism is zero, absolutely zero. So I thought, I'll stuff them.
Well, I saw that you wrote about. I say it is wonderful to see you. I'm glad you're feeling better. So you made a post about what's happening in the UK, and well, really, Ian has because I'm going to blame Ian. I don't want anything to do with. And hello, Patrick, as well. I said hello to you. I don't want to have anything to do with what Ian's found out because Ian probably won't be on next week's show. But should we start talking about it now, Ian?
We might as well. I mean, I know we've both heard some rumblings because people think, oh, we might have just been looking for this or whatever. Or no, we heard things first, rumblings in the industry of mentioning the word Sapient. I had no clue what it was. We were just told it was. I think words like China-like and that kind of thing. So it then started doing digging from there, really, and then it's gone from. The handy thing is, there's MOD sites with it on. There's police sites with it on, expressing the use for it for artificial intelligence, and the whole technical specs for it all are online, and the original MOD documents that detail how you would implement a complete system and what the benefits of doing that are. Now, we also know from the CUAS vendors, because they all go public about it, they're Sapient compliant. You're basically going to have to be Sapient compliant if you want to be selling to the authorities in this country. And it's presented as though it's a protocol, but it's not. It's the friendly presentation of it is, oh, look, it's almost like a military USB-C. It's no such thing. That's just one of the benefits that you get out of it. So the code's open sourced for doing the connectivity, so you can ping the XML messages backwards and forwards. And again, that's another thing that makes it all look nice and friendly and open. The fact that you've got parts of the code online, but really that's just to make sure that vendors can put that compliance in without you having to wait till afterwards, cough up the money and that. It's already there. You can more or less say, there's code, grab it, put it in, or we're not buying what you're trying to sell to us. So I think with that, you can go into the video. But before you do, everybody, make sure you have some popcorn ready.
I already ate mine.
I'll let you drive that video if you will, Bruce, please.
Oh, we'll need to set it back to the start. It was where it was last played from. And I'm not hearing any audio. I don't know about anyone else.
No, I'm not hearing any.
No audio.
Advanced sensors. So what is Sapient? It stands for Sensing for Asset Protection with integrated electronic network technology. It is the concept of a network of advanced sensors with artificial intelligence at the edge. Sapient was designed by the Defense Science and Technology Laboratory for the UK's Ministry of Defence with the intention of being a battlefield control system. However, the Home Office and National Police Chiefs Council have adopted DSTL technology, including Sapient.
Well, I've been here in Porton Down at DSTL, the Defence Science and Technology Laboratory, to open a new facility, a joint facility that's been funded by the Home Office, so we can work together with the world-leading experts at DSTL.
The expectation is that security-related systems for drones in the UK will now be Sapient compliant. Some might try to argue Sapient is just a protocol or a means of connection, but this is not true. It is only as limited or as powerful as the final integrated system. The endgame for a complete Sapient integration is to have a high-level decision-making module AI, interrogating the SQL database, which contains all the XML data, which potentially could contain the UK's drone user database and entire flight history, captured by remote ID and other sensors. When you have a database of innocent UK citizens, both recreational and business, that participate in a hobby that in reality does no genuine harm, you have a system that has fundamentally undermined privacy. You have a system China would be proud of, but the UK shouldn't be.
How, robot? Me friend.
No, talk computer, not Apache.
There we go. A brilliant effort from. But it is a worry. This Sapient system really is a worry, and the insidious nature of it is quite the thing. It really makes the American rollout of RID look like a child's toy, a really ill thought out proposal. This is doing it proper. Because remember, kids, it's not just in the it's not just in devices for finding drones. It's in all manner of other devices, and it's just an extra way of dragging some data into the system. And we're going to pay for it. As the end users, we're going to pay for it. And it's, well, I don't know. I've ranted a bit there. Someone else rant, quick.
Yeah, I'll just go briefly, Ben, then Patrick, you can jump in. Just one thing, Patrick, your mic's on really, really loud. So I don't know if you can knock it down just a tad. Right, so obviously, until the CAA implement their system, you can't say exactly what they will do. But obviously, the DSTL's intents there, they've specifically said, going back years, they wanted their system to be adopted by the police. The MPCC, the documents have got it on. They want to adopt it. In fact, when you read some of the tenders, it looks like there might already be aeroscope plugged into it already. So it's either already there, we don't know about it, or it's coming. Even if the CAA were to put the system on without it initially, we need to know what's going on with the data, because to plug this in, it's a trivial exercise. All it relies on is data being on a database. So as you've seen with the protocol, it's just capturing data in XML format, which just loads straight into a database, and then you can SQL query it. And the scary bit's putting on the high-level decision-making module, which is basically just a fancy way of saying that's AI that's processing the data. If you read all the language of it, the assets that are in there are threats. So you're being all collected in there as a threat. The worry will be, because if there's been nothing to communicate otherwise, is your entire drone history will be captured, so it can go back historically. So for me, if you're talking about security, having a system that was taking drone data in, and if it was just working off live data to say something's going to go on now, I can stomach an argument for that. But if you're taking people's data that could be going back months or years, there isn't an argument for that. But unless people say things and there's assurances otherwise, you can be sure all the data will be just sat on there. And then the question, as we've said before, is where does it all end up? With that compatibility, it suggests the MOD will be looking at it, but who else is going to end up having access as well? It's not good times for privacy, and this is where the conversations need to be had. And I think if there isn't clarity on that, I think drone users need to be writing to the ICO and try and make enough noise that they start looking into it. Because if you can just look this week, it's the UK government has got a bit of a hard-on for AI, and there's a Department for Work and Pensions are using it, so they're actually going to use it now to go in people's bank accounts. And there's concerns that maybe we're heading towards, because they're saying it's for fraud. I don't think there's that much that goes on with pensions. There's talk of maybe it's means tested pensions in the future, but there's just this general thing of we can go in, get your data, connect it up to these systems. And there's actually been controversy already, because the Department of Work and Pensions have been running some of these AIs already, and when they've been quizzed, they don't know why it's taking the decisions that it is taking. There's been evidence of bias in the decisions it's making, so no one actually knows why it's making the decisions they're making. So that would also be the fear of, well, once you get your own data in there, nobody, if it pings somebody wrong as a threat when they're not, it's like, how would anyone fix that to make sure it doesn't do it again in future? So it's those kind of questions. And the sensors themselves, we know, like with GPS, you can have glitches. I mean, people put the logs up to DJI and it's shown that it's been flying hundreds of miles an hour when it's not. And there's all those little kind of things where if you're just looking at raw data and that said, oh, well, that's infallible, you don't want to be prosecuted for a crime when you're not there and it's been a GPS glitch and it's placed you somewhere you weren't. So those are the kind of issues at play. So I'll let someone else speak for now. But I'll put into the private chat here, Gary, some links. If you can post them into the comments so people can actually click through. Bruce or whoever. Yeah,
you'll have to keep them employed. Keep Bruce gainfully employed, because I can't do it from this.
So people can have a look. I should add at this point, just so people are aware, there's already been £8 million spent on aeroscopes, and I'm told that's not the whole lot. That there's already aeroscopes there. This is and extra. So there's actually already been millions of flights of UK drone users collected. Do
we know an interesting story about that we can talk about, what they're doing with Aeroscope? Or
no, probably not the one I talked to you about. No.
No, okay.
So
no, we don't then.
No, we don't know that. So there's data capture at the moment, and we don't know, is that anything that's properly on a database with the ICO and so on. But that kind of just shows you a bit where we're headed.
Well, remember the millions of flights that were captured in America by private owners of Aeroscope, a security company, and I can't remember, it was 2 or 3 million flights, wasn't it, in big cities in America. So yeah, that data capture is occurring. Sorry, Patrick, I jumped on you then.
Just before Patrick comes in, just to finish off with the cost. So we've had 8 million this year spent on Aeroscope, but that wasn't at the end of it. There's been around another 6 million spent on 2 sets of spending, 2 tenders, both making it quite clear the key requirement was Sapient connectivity. So we'll bang that in the chat and people can have a look for themselves. So yeah, that's me done for now.
The only comment that I had really was, Gary, you talked about the cost, and I think it's also the cost in privacy. And, I know this is the old guard call right here, but I feel like those Western ideals that we all kind of grew up with are out the window, and it's under attack globally. I posted some stuff today about what the Chinese are working on with AI and data collection, all the rest of this stuff. And I want to make one other comment about the Aeroscope thing, because we all know that the Aeroscope is flawed, and there's definitely a problem with that. But in America, what we have here, our whole drone mitigation issue, and as far as everyone's writing off for insurance purposes or cover yourself purposes, is buy an Aeroscope, which everybody knows doesn't work correctly. They can't get any real data off of that because there's pings and as Ian had said, there's some other positioning issues and things like that. But it's get an Aeroscope. If something happens, you call the sheriff. And to me, that's just all whistling past the graveyard. That is not a coherent or cogent counter UAS plan. And, supposedly we've been doing this war on terror thing for the last 20 years or whatever else. I just, something's not right here. Something just doesn't pass the sniff test for me. And it's a little bit more commentary than actual, something I can bring that's solid scientific. But it's flawed. Science is flawed. The reasoning is flawed. And we're paying for it with our with our privacy. And the other thing is I'm sure it's the same in the countries you guys are in. If someone gets prosecuted for something, you got to defend yourself. It's changed from innocent until proven guilty to, defend. You're guilty and defend yourself, and you're going to have to get an attorney and spend a bunch of money to prove that you didn't do anything wrong. Like the RC guy over there at Gatwick. He's a good example. That scapegoat that they went and rounded up, him and his wife. Imagine what that was like. It's like drones of Brixton, at the door. Anyway.
The worry with that as well, I'm glad you brought that up, but I mean, the evidence when you look at it at Gatwick at that point, and there'll be more coming out this month, and hopefully, Gary, you can help make some more noise about that at the time. We'll try and release that on the exact 5th anniversary. But the police already should have known by then when they went in for that couple and didn't need to go in so hard, because the RAF then had been there a couple of days and said, the systems had quite clearly said there was no drones flying about. So really, either they weren't talking to each other, there just wasn't left hand not knowing what the right hand's doing, or they were just genuinely looking for somebody to pin it on because it had gone that far. And people still think we don't have miscarriages of justice in the UK, but we had the guy over in Manchester where it was even known that the evidence they had, they hadn't told the defence everything. They knew they potentially had somebody convicted who was innocent, and no one was willing to correct that. So that took, I think it was a couple of decades to sort out. So it does worry me if he'd have had a drone, and especially if he had something that didn't have logs on it. If he was doing UFPV type thing, they could have said he's it, and everyone would have believed he was, and he could have gone for prison, and we'd all assume he'd been caught and put in, and what could have happened. So I do fear there that he was very lucky that we'd sold his drones, and that could have turned out a lot worse.
The Gatwick was mentioned time and time again in various National Police Council things as a justification for the spending that's just occurred on Aeroscope and the requirement to pull in Sapient compatible systems. So it doesn't send that. I don't know, Bruce, if you can post those links, because I can't post any links from mobile. That would be great, mate. But,
those are the links in the private chat.
Yeah.
Yes. I don't see them. What I wanted to say that it is in the police's interest to not allow the truth about Gatwick to come out at the minute, because they're using it as a lever to buy stuff or a button, lever, push, or whatever. It's quite shocking, but it is, as Ian said, it's kind of all in the clear. It's all in the tender documents. It's not secret and hidden. You've just got to start fishing a little bit, and you will find all this stuff. And I know, Bruce, you mentioned in a chat on a social post on your soon-to-be blown-up channel. You'd heard there might be, I think, what is it they're having in America? Areas where you can fly model aircraft.
Freers.
Freers.
Yeah.
Where did you hear that might be coming to the UK?
It's in the consultation document.
It's going to consultate. That's right. It is.
Yeah.
Yes. So that's that's just ridiculous. And that, I don't know. Again, we've said this so many times, and it's the old duffers. It's the old duffers here. And I've said that would have been another nail in the coffin for 12-year-old me walking up the hill to fly me gliders near my parents' house without my parents, because I'd need them now as well to be there. I was flying a model aircraft, but then I wouldn't be doing that because I wouldn't be in a Freer. So you've
got to be sponsored if you're under a certain age, don't you? You can't do it on your own anymore. The thing is, the society seems to have changed now. Important things are becoming illegal, like privacy. You can't have privacy. Adrenaline. You can't have any risk in your life. And but the thing that worries me most of all is that most of us here are of a similar generation, and we grew up with these. We assumed these things would be perpetual, but always have our privacy. Would always, be able to take risks and draw our own level of risk. But I think people today, younger people, just don't see these things as being valuable anymore. They don't care about privacy. They're posting their whole lives on Instagram and Facebook and things, and they don't see the need for privacy. And also, they're so apathetic when it comes to losing any freedoms that they might have previously had. They don't value them in the same way that we do. So it looks pretty dystopian when you think about it, because there's no one standing up and saying, "Oi, you can't do that," except, a group of 5 people on a YouTube stream.
I don't think they're apathetic. They just didn't. They didn't know. They didn't know what they had to lose, and they haven't known it. But now tinfoil hat on. It could be no coincidence that the mass and reading ability of 15-year-olds has dropped worldwide in the last 3 years. Every single country, comprehension, reading for comprehension, and things like that. Again, tinfoil hat on. The attention economy is allowing us to drag people's attention to other places. So look over here, whilst we're doing something over here.
I think there's other issues at play, though. And this is another old guard thing. Okay, so I've been around this for so many years, but okay, so I keep talking about the regulatory let's say landscape, especially here in the United States. And I know that other countries follow that, other Western countries follow what the FAA does. But we have to look at the string of companies that used VC money to lobby for regulatory rulemaking and policy, which were to the detriment of our industry, to the detriment of our privacy, and to our freedoms, like even with the repeal of Section 336 over here. But all of that was done. People made backroom deals and did stuff and gave concessions and whatever else, because thinking that they were going to get personal gain out of that. AMA was going to get that paid million membership. AirMap was going to get the contract to, let people in and out of the airspace, or, local municipalities were going to be able to do the fines and collect the money. So there was a profit motive in all of this for people to clamp down, gather the intelligence, get the information, compile it, and use it for their gain to make money. Now, I call it kind of the boulevard of broken dreams. But we see all of these companies that were high flying, and these people were geniuses, and their business plans were the way of the future, and how it was going to happen and what was going to happen. And so now what are we left with? We're left with a bunch of VC people that lost money, a bunch of bankruptcies, and a bunch of failed business plans. But what we have is kind of those artifacts or relics of the backroom deal and the poor regulation and policy. And we're going to suffer for that. And these kids you're talking about are going to suffer with a short attention span. So I think people have to realize that. I mean, I kind of stand on the soapbox and bellyache about that. And people are like, oh, you haven't done anything. You don't know what you're talking about or whatever. But I've seen a day when there was the freedom in all countries where you could fly a drone. Drones are not new. In your airspace, in controlled airspace, beyond visual line of sight, at night, whatever else you wanted to do. And, that's gone. Now I can't even go to the park and fly a little electric foam airplane. So I think that's what we lost. And I don't think the people understand that.
And what worries me about the UK situation as well is that they're going so far beyond what America set. You'll have to have remote ID on any drone that has a camera, regardless of weight. I mean, what are they trying to protect from? They've got privacy laws which should cover that. Why do you need to build that into the aviation regulations, that you need to track everything that could possibly be recording something? It's like, only those with something to hide have anything to fear from this. That's what they tell us, but that doesn't work two ways.
What's really, really crazy, you can see more with a high-powered camera. So a high-powered camera will give you a better photo at distance. You can stand a mile foot away from someone and you will get the better shot. There's no two ways about it. If you want to see over someone's fence, camera on a pole. What they're going to do, put RID on a camera on a pole. If you put your camera on a pole, you're going to put RID, right? The UK has always had like one of the biggest CCTV systems in the world, which you kind of get used to in the towns. However, I do not expect the government to be using Sapient to track my face, which it can do. It's not just RID it can do. So it can track your image and knows where you've been, when you've been, what time, everything. It's taking the absolute piss, to be honest, on kind of you're right to be to have some anonymity of some kind. You know, I should not be tracked going down the road. You know what I mean? Walking down the street, I should not be tracked. They should not know what day I walk through Lincoln High Street, for example, where I live. Right? It's just ridiculous. I find it.
But don't be riding a horse carrying a hammer whilst you're riding through Lincoln, because they're classifying horses. Now, I think it's part of the classification. Ian will argue with me, but if we got a hold of horse and hound, so as a group, we'll be upset, and drone users will be upset. If you get hold of horse and hound and say they're tracking horses, the country set will go nuts.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, that's only part of the default data set. But yeah, if you have a look at the taxonomy, if you're a bloke on the horse carrying a camera, a microphone, and a drone, you're ping, ping, ping.
That's right. A million points.
What have all you people got to hide? What are you hiding? Come on. Why are you afraid of this?
But it's just crazy that everything's monitored. You know, it's just it's getting stupid. I mean, the world is absolutely going stupid. We as a human race are going backwards. If 15-year-olds are just losing it, we will go backwards. The next generation that follows us might be all right, but 2 generations, 3 generations back, the world is. What happened when Rome collapsed? Right, there was a massive technological fall because the Romans disappeared out of Europe. We all went backwards because we Nethanded. I can't say the word. See, it's happening already. We're just going to go backwards. You know, we just
it's called devolution. It's been happening
not all Scottish.
It's de-evolution.
It's devolution, and it happened because look, we're now so good at keeping sick people alive. They breed and pass on genetic diseases. From a physical health point of view, we are devolving, and it's costing. Health system costs are going through the roof because there are so many people now alive who need constant medical support who would have died in earlier times, and we wouldn't have had the cost of keeping them alive. But now we can keep them alive. Our ethics say we must keep them alive, and we're also dumbing down school kids because people in power probably feel a bit threatened by an upcoming generation that may be as smart or smarter than them. So dumb them down. We don't care. It'll give us. We can retain our power a little bit longer.
By the way, though, I'm quite happy to keeping older people alive. I probably won't be here.
That's true.
You're just one voice.
Yeah. Well,
just to jump in with two.
I think Bruce got a fair point about people in power worried about knowledge, because youngsters today do have access to all manner of knowledge that would have been in a library. Some of that knowledge would have been, you've got to ask that librarian, and they've got to go and get a key, and they've got to unlock a door, and they've got to go and find it. And are you really entitled to read that book? Well, it is out there. So, yeah, I mean, the 1% throughout time has had access to the knowledge, and now the knowledge is available to many, many more people. It must be worrying to people in power.
Well,
so, yeah, let's stop them reading. Let's stop them doing numbers.
Well, you can see how backwards we're going because people go onto Facebook and ask questions, and they get the answers they get are just showing how backwards we're going.
Well, that speaks to, and I'm glad you said that, because that speaks to. So we've had our registration fees in the UK and America and around the world, and part of the great promise of that was, there'll be training. We'll give you training as part of your registration fee. And as you say, if you go on Facebook and you see what people are asking, I'm not against training. I'm not against, knowledge being sent out to drone users to increase their safety and stuff. And it ain't happening. But so where's the money going? And because you can tell,
the thing is, we're not hiding to nothing, because now, of course, the use of drones as a frontline strategic weapon in all the battlefronts, so now we are going to be hammered from that point of view as well. Like we can't have people walking around the streets with the new equivalent of an AK-47. You can't have a drone; they're a weapon of war. And so, no matter what we do, if you have remote ID and you register, then you're obviously a potential offender. You're on an offenders list. And if you don't register or don't have remote ID, then you must be a terrorist. How do you win?
Yeah, I mean,
Ian, have you got that BBC, the next BBC series? Can you?
Yeah, I'll find a link to that in a minute, and then you can show that, because I think that's quite worrying. I think we should as a drone community at the time. I think
Exactly
not
what,
to do it now, watch the first episode and see what it's like. But I was thinking it'd be funny if that really is bad to do a reaction video to it and just take the piss out of all the physics and stuff. But
Well,
just going back to one second, because there's a few points we've covered here that are quite interesting. And one of them going back to Patrick's point earlier about when you are prosecuted. So the interesting thing was, if you remember going back to Dublin Airport, there's the guys there that are going through court. And the lawyer himself, I mean, I've actually chatted to the guy on the phone, funnily enough. I had a quick chat and said, look, if you're going up and dealing with this, it's a complex matter. You ought to get some global drone experts involved, or your client's not going to have a chance. And he was quite upfront about the fact he knew nothing about drones himself. But this is the problem. People get given their defence, and their defence knows nothing about drones. So what's actually been going on in Dublin is, in the court, they've actually been pushing it back, because the lawyer's saying, I literally cannot give him a defence because I don't even know, and I can't understand the subject matter. We need to get somebody in that can actually look at the arguments that are being made, so he has a chance of defending himself. So that looks what seems to be going on there, in that they're saying, hold on a bit, we need to be able to prepare for this, and it looks like at least they're being given that time. But that is the genuine worry, that if they come after you for something you genuinely excuse me a minute, so you genuinely haven't done, but a sensor has picked it up and it thinks you've done it, you're gonna have a hard time. And there's another point with this as well, was going back to the sensors. We know the flaws with Aeroscope. Any bad it's kind of almost a pointless spend, because we're spending all these tens of millions. But any genuine bad actor, a state bad actor, whatever, is not going to have a DJI drone anyway. But what they are doing to add to it, I think, to bulk it up, is, and you can see it in the tenders that we've linked to, is buying RF sensors as well. But then again, if you're going to RF sensor everything, again, what they're doing is building up this huge, expensive network without probably the full knowledge there. Really, this should be being done from someone in the private sector, understands it or puts it all together if you were doing it. Because what I do know, and this again is one of these little secrets that's known in the counter drone industry that none of us plebs are ever told about, but the military RF sensors actually pick up EVs. They pick up your Teslas, they pick up your Audis, so anything, because it's got a wireless hotspot in it and it's moving, it thinks, aha, got you, you're a drone. So if you did put all this up and all your EVs going out, and there's more of them, there'd be ping, 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 false alarms everywhere. Eventually you might find, well, we might as well be turning these sensors off, and then you've spent all the money. And the worry which you'd alluded to earlier, Gary, because we at the moment it looks concerning, because the Home Office, as we've seen, they've set up the centre combined with the MOD, and they're leveraging the CAA. So if they really want to get, I mean, it comes across that what they want to do is they want the community paying for RID, so it finishes off their system for them instead of them paying. So instead of it coming out of the Home Office budget, it's coming out of drone user community budget. So that's why I have two issues. There's one issue is the privacy, but the other's the cost as well. I say if the MOD and the Home Office want this, much as we might hate it, at least they could bloody well do is pay for it themselves. So we need to watch out for that and where they try to heap the cost, because it's going to be very, very, very expensive. And whatever price they say, these people that are working on it will be SC cleared IT workers. SC clearance, you get paid £100-200 a day more just for that. So you can have people on £500 to £1,000 a day all working on this. That budget is going to, whatever they say it's going to be, it's going to go higher, especially now we've got rules around IR35. People want to be out of it. What they'll do is they'll increase their demands for for the daily rate and all that kind of thing. So we could be heaped with an astronomical cost. But yeah, go on, Patrick. Sorry about that.
Well, no, you hit on a couple of good points, and one of them is one point that you hit on is nobody wants to pay for it. That is universal. Nobody wants to pay for this. They want someone else to pay for it. That's one thing. Two, you hit on about the lawyer talking about trying to defend his client. This is the same situation that we have with the bureaucrats. Anybody that kind of gets into this field, Johnny come lately, and I see it all the time, and I even see it with people that are, I would call experts and have been in this business for 20 years. They just think it's like, oh, ho-hum, everybody knows this. But new people that come into this, either being bureaucrats or whatever, the learning curve is so steep. And I don't want to sound like a jerk. And I know I do a lot of the time, but when you start talking to people that are new in the industry, it's just like, man, I'm giving you this education, or somebody's going to have to pay to give you this education, and it'll be 5 or 10 years before you pick it up, and you'll probably be long gone. But you'll be telling people that you are an expert, and you'll be affecting us with your stupid ideas or your rotten ideas. One other point I want to hit on is everybody's talking about this new aviation or AAM or transportation 4.0 or whatever else, and it's like you are just stomping the raw material into the dirt. Everybody talks about STEM. Gary made a good point, as you 12-year-old Gary, those back in the Stone Age, that, it's like if it's the barrier to entry is too high, you're going to go do something else. And then where is that workforce? I know for me, the RC thing was the thing that kind of sparked the magic in flight, that I could actually build something that could actually fly, right? So those are the people that are going to be, that are your potential workforce to make this whole flying car thing pencil, and you're stomping it in the dirt today. It makes no sense. I mean, I'm wondering, the people that are in government in the West just asleep at the switch? Are they inept? Is it coincidence? I'm looking for answers. Maybe Bruce, the drone answer man, might be able to enlighten us.
Who knows? Who knows? But no, it is the points you raise are quite valid. That we're going to have this dearth of talent coming through, and the problem is, I think the people making the decisions are really quite stupid. They're not well informed, and they're not that bright. So they're making decisions based on the advice of their consultants, who are there to basically borrow their watch and tell them the time. So we've got all these incompetent people working with huge amounts of public resource, making decisions that have far-reaching consequences. And by the time they realize what they've done, it's too late. You've got this big gap in development, big gap of lack of talent. It's so unfortunate. And this whole going back to the sort of car thing. Have you noticed that modern cars log everything? And when you plug your phone in, they actually have access to all your SMS messages and everything. And here in New Zealand, they're planning to change from having taxes on gasoline because we're going electric. They want to charge you per kilometre. So what's going to happen is basically when you take your vehicle in for its annual inspection or whatever, then the car will be downloaded. All of that history will be logged. All your speeding tickets will be issued. All your other infringements will be noted, and you'll get fined for them. And then you'll have to pay in advance for your mileage for the next year based on your last year's use. And it's like suddenly the whole thing of enforcement becomes so simple. There's no cost to enforcement anymore. And the same will happen with drones. Once we've got this remote ID and every drone flight is logged, if you fly to 402 feet, that's it. There's a $300 fine in the mail. And if you fly in an area, you just cross into an area that you shouldn't go into, there's another $300 or whatever the fines may be. And I think this is, from a revenue generation point of view, it's fantastic from the point of view of government. But the other thing is, we're talking about the cost of things. Every country in the world almost has subsidized the introduction of ADS-B, but there's not one subsidy for RID. Why is that?
And the point you made there, Bruce, as well, which we sort of alluded to earlier, was you'll end up getting that as well. Even if you haven't gone over, just because your sensors aren't going to be accurate enough to pin you down to the meter, that you could well end up getting tricked off if they ever went down that route. But yeah, that is the fear when you've got data. It can be so easily misused. But if we end up doing that, there'll be nobody flying, and then we'll have no industry. I mean, people, said to me already, no one's costing up all the millions and tens of millions. This country is going to be losing because we're putting that many people off, because we've just got this overzealous pressure on people. We're dealing primarily with sub 250 gram pieces of plastic, and and as we've said, cases that are actually seen as serious enough to need to prosecute are on single figures. So we're spending all these tens of millions for an absolutely trivial crime. It isn't justified. And I should say, if you could post in a minute, Bruce, or actually bring it up, there's a tweet, and we've just discussed it before, but I think we should actually let people see it and just go a bit more into this as well, because there's a twofold attack that's going on at the moment. It's on the drone community, but there's also people within the police service and certainly within the Met that are actually going for the MPAS teams. So they're trying to get rid of the National Police Air Service, the helicopters and so on, with this narrative that a drone can replace a helicopter. It's so much cheaper, but this isn't true. The different capabilities on an MPAS, you can have, optics. I think they're up near £1 million, but it's several £100,000. they're far superior to what's on a drone. There was recently a capture of a guy where the MPAS camera was used, and he'd been leaning against the fence, and the heat transfer from his back was picked up on the fence, and that's how they got him. So this is, they've got some, it's not just the weather, the speed, they can carry bigger payloads than you can with a drone. So it's just,
so stand off a heck of a distance as well. That's rather, there's their standoff distance can be, that part of Navy up by you can stand off at 10 miles.
Yeah,
if
we have a look at the tweet that's in there, because I think this is telling, I don't want to get anyone in bother with this, but it's important to see that it is having an impact, because there's a tweet here, and this is from an MPAS team. And
that's another thing with the misinformation that's out there, because those military grade EO/IR sensors, anybody that's ever worked in, let's say, military remote sensing or unmanned platforms, I mean, the FLIR Sea-Star Sapphire, the MX-15, MX-20, Raytheon's offering and stuff. I mean, this stuff is people's faces, what they're holding in their hands from kilometers away, it'd blow you away. But that's another issue that we have here, is these so-called experts jump in here and give people misinformation. The other thing, and briefly, I want to talk about the national security and economic security that's going on with the drone thing. I posted some stuff on LinkedIn today about what the Chinese are doing. And in military circles, you have people, we need to come up with a common controller. We need to come up with this fix for this problem. And of course, we don't want to spend the money or whatever else. But what the Chinese are doing is they are leveraging the commercial marketplace to fix all of these problems. We're bickering about the 250 gram drone that pisses me off for a lot of different reasons. But the reality is, they've got JD over there working on, 800 kilos or whatever to 1,000 kilometers or whatever. And they're doing that in the commercial market space. The taxpayer's not having to pay for that. The taxpayer's not having to pay for the common controller or the digital interface or all of these other things. And that's the thing. It's like, I go to these military things and there's all these people in the room. And I'm like, who's been to China? Show of hands. None of the hands go up, but everybody's an expert on China.
Well, this is exactly what this is kind of exactly what Sapient is. It's like the MOD have gone, oh, look what Hike Vision did. Oh, blimey, we better have some of that. Oh, that was a clever thing the Chinese did. It's a back door into all sorts of devices. Not, we need to almost forget the drone aspect of it in some ways. It's in many devices that aren't out there looking for drones, but if it's all, and the system's all there. So yeah, they are, you've got to hand it to the Chinese at the end of the day. Fair play.
Yeah,
if you can do it.
The scary thing is here we're copying China and patting ourselves on the back, and it's not a good way to be. But the documentation that all the police have done around this, drones weren't even mentioned or considered in this. They're looking at the wider society, facial recognition off the CCTV on the street. So it feels like actually what's going on here is not only are they having us pay for it, we're the guinea pigs for the first trial run of a user base of UK citizens. At the same time, we pick up the development and testing cost to get this first system out there, and then they can roll that out to border control and wherever they decide to then spread it out from. Because it's once you've got the system there, you can just copy exactly the same the modules that you've had bespoke.
Ian, do a FOIA for the term social credit. See what comes up.
Oh yeah, social credit, absolutely. Yeah. Oh, and I want to wind back to drone experts. There's one particular magazine, and the chat every time it says "as the drone expert." It's like, oh wow, nobody. In every walk of life, as soon as people start calling themselves an expert, doesn't matter what it is, cars, planes, trains, automobiles. As soon as somebody declares they're an expert, nah. And then but I'm seeing, it's really annoying me, I'm seeing the current new experts reinventing everything that didn't work 15, 20 years ago. It's all coming back, and it's coming back with a vengeance. And you just seem like such a clown when you say, well, that's not going to work because of this, and that's not going to work because of that. Trust me, that didn't work for them because of this. and they just don't believe you. They don't believe you. But what I saw some requests here in Africa for 11 drones to be on fire spotting duty in 11 game reserves, and I said, well, you could just use the NASA very, very free tool for spotting fires. No, it's not high enough resolution. And funny enough, the same day, I looked out this window here and I could see a whack of smoke. I had a look on the NASA thing, and there it was. Well, that's bloody good enough. So I could have not looked out the window. I could have just, if I happened to have had that page open, I would have had that data, or anyone else, anywhere in the world could have said, "Hey, Gary, just down the road from you, there's a fire." It's.
Well, I want to concur with your. No, I want to concur with your expert thing, because I see this all the time, and I know that people call you cynical, and that guy's a curmudgeon and a grouch and all the rest of that stuff. But it happens to me every day. People send me a video, and there's some cell phone app hipster whiz kid going, "Oh, and we're doing this, and we did that, and we're going to do that." It's like that was done 15 years ago. That was done almost 20 years ago. It's already been done. You go to these military things and people are talking about the whiz kid stuff that they're doing, and you're like, you're reinventing the wheel, because this was already done 2003, 5, 8, 9, 10, 12, ad nauseum. It's like the thing with the loitering munition. That was the Pro-Series on point unicorn, man, in 2007. This isn't rocket surgery. It's been done. People could do it. You didn't even have to be under the hood. So again, the technology wheel of suffering. I find it in military circles every 2 or 3 years. There's a leadership change, focus changes, and it becomes the lost technology. Someone's talking about realm and the technology. Look, we lost that whole toilet technology for how many thousands of years? It's kind of along the same lines. We keep losing this technology that the taxpayers paid for. So I just wanted to reinforce that. But you're right, Gary. That expert thing is dangerous.
Yeah, it's the last thing you need in anything is an expert. It really is. You never stop learning. Doesn't mean so you're never an expert in anything. I don't know, Bruce. You probably got a better throwaway line for that than me.
Well, the X being the unknown and the spirit being a drip under pressure.
Well, there's that one, yes, but that's an old Duffers line, that is. But yeah,
but the interesting thing with all this stuff going on, if this was private industry, there would not be a business case for all these changes. Where is the benefit versus the cost? But because they're spending public money or requiring the public to spend their own money, and it's there's like bottomless pockets involved. So you don't need a business case. So you just keep spending until we get the results. And that's not the way anybody in authority should run any kind of enterprise, be it a government or a private enterprise. I despair that these people obviously haven't even been to basic economics, basic business school.
And I'm wondering if they're getting value for money, because there was something like Blue Light Services or something like that. They called West Midlands Police were basically appointed to be a national purchaser of hardware, and the idea was every force went for them, and because you had it all being bought through a single entity, it'd be cheaper. But this counter drone stuff's being bought separately, so it's outside of that process. You're thinking again, you're doing things separately even when you've set up a structure. And then it's a company called Aerial Armour in the US. So I'm also wondering, why have we spent £10 million of UK money and sent it abroad? Could that have not done through a dealership in the UK, and then some of that money gets sort of passes into the economy here? So there's just lots of, obviously there'll be some reason for it, but it'll be just kind of, you don't get all that clarity, so it all just looks there's more questions than answers on some of the decisions that take place.
It's we've had 48 minutes on this topic now. Maybe we should move away from a little bit. Not that I've really thought of anything to move on, because it is.
We haven't come up with a solution yet, though. We've defined the problem. Where's the solution?
Well, here's a couple of takeaway points. One, we know RID is expensive because the FAA said a unit would cost around $50, if not less. What are they, $100 odd, Patrick, for a rig unit? Right. So
I'm not sure.
Quite clearly, they're not as cheap as expected. So we're going to be expected in the UK to pay £10. Then, if you don't have a drone that's got RID built in, you'll have to pay for the privilege to fly, and that's probably going to cost you, because we're a small market. this is really important to remember. If we do not follow the FAA's cock-up RID or the EASA cock-up RID, right, we will have to pay more for RID because it will have to be a specifically designed device that is UK only, because the rest of the world have gone the rest of the way. So it could...
A quick comment on that, Mark, just a second, because you might know what the European RID's like. The UK is already different because it stops you taking off, so it must connect into the.
You have to have network connectivity.
So it must connect into the transmitter to stop it arming or something, mustn't it? Or
It'll be through your phone. But it must be a bidirectional link in order to get a token.
No. The point I'm making is it physically stops your drone from taking off. It's fine if you've got a drone like DJI and it can put it in the software, but if you've got a self build and it's to stop it taking off, then surely you've got to have some connectivity into the receiver or the power chain to stop it.
It'll be in the flight controller. There'll be certified equipment you can use to build your own drone. If it's not certified, not on the approved list, you won't be able to use it.
It's also
on model aircraft, they've got a carve out there. Did you see that? If you belong to a approved national body and you fly in a little grassy field miles from anywhere, you may get some exemption. But then that's going to kill the hobby because no one will even know it exists anymore.
And well, even so, but even if they came up with a RID device that's different, let's say someone gives you a RID device that weighs 100 grams or 50 grams or whatever. We know as model flyers what that does to a model aircraft. You put it in the wrong place, so your aircraft can't take it in the right place.
Always put it in the tail.
Yeah, put it in the back. Let's see what happens. It's just going to make your day go. It's just going to make your day go. But
remember that according to the British proposal, this would have to have remote ID, which is like 25 grams, where you just not a network remote ID, and there doesn't seem to be a carve out for indoor use either. It doesn't, whether you're flying indoors or outdoors, your remote ID must still be operative. So these things become a thing of the past.
It is absolutely crazy. And the question actually becomes, right, do we actually need RID? Because quite clearly, we're already having our data sucked up. So actually, the MPCC is already sucking up all the data they want on drones already. So actually, is RID technically required in the UK? The answer is probably not.
It's that added level of paranoia, isn't it? It's like, well, we've got all the DJI, but for all that minority that have got a non-DJI, we can pick them up. But again, missing the entire fact that any bad actor isn't going to put anything on. And then they're going, yeah, but the bad actors that haven't got anything on, we'll be able to take them for something else, maybe our RF. And then, but then you'll be running out as bad actors to every EV that flies past and gets picked up as a false positive.
Yeah.
Here's the thing, right?
Yeah,
I know if I wanted... If I wasn't in the good drone business and I wanted to be in the bad drone business, shall we say, I could quite happily deliver to 10 prisons in a day, quite happily, by just walking out in the field, doing something, and come back in a few hours later and getting my aircraft back. And no one would be able to detect it, do anything, or do squat, because it'll just do what I tell it to do.
That's where they should do what they used to do, the sewage plants in the Air Force, to keep the seagulls off them. It's just run fishing wire across the top, or a net. You don't need to.
The simple thing is often the easiest solution, to be honest.
A sign that says no drones.
No,
I mean, surely bad actors wouldn't break the law.
You're right. You're absolutely right. Ian, did you manage to find that other video? Because that is good.
I'm going for it this second. Give me 2 minutes.
Yeah.
When this program happens in the UK, there's going to be some drone operator bothering on a large scale.
What is this? What have I missed?
Much, Mark. You don't get any of the memos, mate.
I've missed something. I saw that the guy who jumped out of the
now.
If Bruce can run it, that would be.
Yeah, if you have to run it on your screen, Bruce, and then
you're making my life so complicated, you guys. I don't know.
Either that, or if you give me 2 minutes, I'll download it and upload it to play.
You get the big money for this. Come on.
Oh, Hang on.
And by big money, I mean a big coin. I don't mean it's valuable, just a big coin.
I have no idea
Is
what
that-
I'm
is that
doing
the old
here.
penny you're talking
So-
about.
Give me 2 minutes. I'll download it and
Yeah,
upload
you
it.
download it because then it'll save me knocking us offline or something.
So did you see that the guy who jumped out of his plane, if you remember it, when we
Yeah.
were talking
Yeah.
about that, he's doing all the news round. He's doing the news again.
Yeah.
It's back.
He got,
doing
he got sent to
announcements.
jail.
Yeah, for 6
Yeah.
months. But wasn't that announced a bit ago? He was going, and now it's like back again, and he's
I think
eating
it was
humble
announced
pie.
They were charging him, but I don't think we knew.
He just got
what was
sentenced
gonna
the other
happen.
day, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he was eating humble pie. Did you notice? He was like, "Yeah, sorry, I shouldn't have done it."
Did they get him under the unmanned aircraft regulations after he jumped out?
Yeah,
No, I
he
think
wasn't
they
in
just-
control. He didn't have a Part 107, etc., etc.,
Yep.
etc.
Yeah, and it was over 55 pounds without a waiver.
I think it's very, very interesting watching all the YouTube channels quickly trying to pivot into other content that have been very, very drone centric in the past. Because the Part 107 for those in America, the requirement for a Part 107 and RID and all that, it's beginning to hit home for them, I think.
Did you see I posted those numbers today on Gary or on LinkedIn, Gary. and we have like some 321,000 and change commercial users in the United States, and I want to say there's 500,000 and something recreational users that are registered, right? And my first thing is now we all remember the estimates. Going to be millions of drones. And we're not having the millions of drones. Something happened. We're also not having the forecast for the what this industry was going to be worth, the 82 billion. We are also not having.
Oh, hey, did you see the consultation document from the UK? I did a little word count here. Did I make a note of it? Anyway, I counted the times the word could and should were included in the document rather than will. All the vagaries they have in that consultation document, and they're saying this could provide a $45 billion boost to the UK economy. Not will, well, not probably will, but could. It's like, how vague can you be? There's all this ethereal stuff that they're using as justification for all the measures they want to take, but there's no hard facts. It's just
The thing we've missed at SES News in doing the trick, one of the many tricks we've missed, and one of the problems now, here we go, ranty head, with being a bit honest, is we haven't. If you see high numbers, if there's a report that's high numbers, it's because I'm chuckling at it. That's why I run some of those forecasts, because I trust that our readers are clever enough to realise it's a load of bullshit. But if we made up polls like people do and say this many hours flown here, that many there, the world's top 5 manufacturers, they're just sucking it out of their finger, all these things. But these companies pay to be on that list. Don't people realise that? That's all you do, is you take a money and say, right, you'll be number 5, it will cost you this. And there's been a lot of that I started down a ranty corner, I'm regretting doing that. But there's been a lot of that this week. And one particular report was about hours flown and BV loss. And there wasn't a single dot in Africa. And yet I reckon Zipline flying BV loss in Rwanda, Ghana, Kenya, and other places will have way exceeded what's happened in America and Europe combined. In the civilian space, I have to say civilian space. Obviously, the military space, not so much, but in the civilian space. But there's not even one dot on the map for Africa. So, and yeah, I don't know. And then a huge dot for China. Where did they make those numbers up from? How the hell?
So
do you
all
get
those
numbers
YouTube
out of China?
videos are faked of these amateurs flying BV loss. They're all just fake.
Well, and you're making a good point, Gary. And I think there's another thing in the drone industry. It's not only the drone industry too. If you read magazines or you go to other websites, most of this crap is paid content. Most of the drone podcast and stuff. I asked somebody hey, well, when are you going to have me on your podcast? Which I need to refire up the SUS News podcast. I'm just busy with life stuff. But we charge for that. You have to pay. I'm not paying you to.
Bruce doesn't know he hasn't got to pay.
Sorry, I blew it. No, but it's like if I got to go somewhere to pay to be on somebody's show to prove that I know what I'm talking about. You know what? I get stuffed, as the saying goes. So one, that's a problem. Number two, the other thing that we have going on here, besides living through the bad regulation and the stumbling blocks and having to debate this for decades on end, and it'll be until we probably die, is a situation where the numbers, there is still no scientific data, that shows. I mean, since 2016, we haven't had any fatalities. Man, you better drown GA. Nobody wants to talk like that. It's all too heavy. But realistically, I think you can come out now and you can say, hey, remember the sky was going to fall and all the rest of the sky was going to be black with drones and people were going to be dying. It was going to be like the birds. Didn't happen. So now you got to roll back. One other thing, and I don't know that I talked about it or not, and I'm trying to get I tried to FOIA this, but the FAA had a Part 108 ex parte meeting. Maybe I did talk about it.
Yeah.
They can't find it. They can't find the PowerPoint. Nobody knows what's going on with that. But that is all going to be big companies self-declaring that they're safe without any data. And you think as like a small commercial operator, it's going to be even worse.
Yeah, with my regulator's hat on, I can just say that it's because of these harsh regulations that we haven't seen the deaths. It's not in spite. It's because of we've done such good work in grounding the bad actors and keeping things under control. We deserve a pay rise and a free trip to Hawaii.
Do we?
Just to add,
Is that flying? Are we getting a free trip to Hawaii? Fantastic.
Yeah. Hey,
thanks, Bruce.
this won't get Gary shut down because of copyright, will it?
no, but before we play it, not only we need popcorn, but by the end of this, I would suggest something like gin, whiskey,
or a
something along
tranquilizer.
those lines when you've seen it.
Yeah. Oh, shall I start it now?
It's going to cause us problems, ladies and gentlemen. It's going to cause us problems.
Are we all sitting comfortably? Let's see what happens.
Mrs. Granger, what are you doing?
Get control of Alpha now!
Medevac needed.
7 murders on Scottish soil.
We need to visit the base in Woodyan. But you're okay with it?
Well, I'm not due for another 2 months, and you put me on this case.
You love Woodyan. Nobody tells the truth there either.
Somebody told them what we were doing here. Find out who.
We're all suspects.
Yes, of course we are.
Let's kick her head down.
Are you asking me if I did this?
Why were you there?
Those drones are tools for repression.
Your dad didn't do anything wrong.
Police! Stay where you are!
What evidence do you even have?
I have enough.
You should try to complete your work quickly.
They are lying to you.
Stay me!
Look up.
Come home.
I can't.
Everyone's going to get paranoid.
Wow, that's great. That's my life every day.
The worst thing with this straight off is we all know what a military drone looks like, and they've presented a military drone in the exact design of a consumer drone, and ignorant members of the public are all going to watch
Looked
this.
a bit like a Solo 3D.
This has a lot big ratings in the UK, especially where we've got enough paranoia as it is. So I do think this is going to cause problems for commercial operators when they're out flying. And people seeing this, it's going to make, and again, it's going to call more people to be calling the police to say, I've seen a drone, I think it's a problem, because they're going to assume, oh, this is up to something naughty. I say we'll have to watch the first episode and see how it pans out, just to see. I mean, the trailer doesn't look at all promising, but it'd be good for people that have got channels with bigger followings to do reaction videos and just, take the absolute piss out of it and tag the producers and so on. And if you do a lot of that on social media, maybe that will get some traction, especially as we're coming up to the Gatwick anniversary as well. So if we could just get someone in the tech media to actually then start saying, wait a minute, that's a load of bollocks. At least you can chip away at it a little. But yeah, it's I thought we'd moved away from this kind of kind of confusing a military drone and a commercial drone, and here it's
but a drone's a drone. If it's called a drone, it's dangerous and evil.
And I'm paranoid. I gotta go. Until next time.
Right,
nice chatting with you guys.
Pleasure, mate.
Bye-bye.
Cheers. Oh, thank goodness for that. No, yeah, it's that's a worry. There's so many things that are a worry at the moment, and we are absolutely, as Billy Patrick's gone, but we are absolutely past peak consumer drone. I think I have a feeling we're getting past peak surveyor drone and peak inspector drone. because if you need one in your job and you're a professional, you've got one. And so some older people will be leaving at one end of the market. There'll be a few younger ones coming in at the bottom of the market as surveyors, but in general, they're there. The world mostly has the number it has. And one of the things that annoys me the most about the place I'm seeing tenders and other stuff is that it's a group that is telling young people there's a bright future based on what people were thinking 20 years ago with drones, and then charging them appropriately for courses and other stuff that they'll never use or never need.
Where's PwC? They'd throw some sensible figures into the pot, wouldn't they?
Have you been in that chat? I said to them, I trust them as much as I trust PwC reports. I actually said that. Yeah, it's as useful data as a PwC report. Yeah, it's.
But you see where things are going though, because the problem is that the FAA have said that they will not allow BV loss until there is a totally reliable detect and avoid system, because it's too dangerous. And this includes AAM, pilotless air taxis. So there is no way to produce that level of DAA, detect and avoid. So the only solution is to make sure there's nothing to avoid. And that means clearing the skies of anything that's not controlled. So remote ID becomes part of the UTM, and you can control all these drones. So anything that's going to take off will have to have remote ID so that it can work in with the whole model of detect and avoid through a network remote system. So casual flying of model aircraft and drones, there's no room for it in these skies.
Well, luckily here we have Altitude Angels superhighway, which does do detect and avoid.
It's just one little strip though, until it covers the whole country.
Well, it's 10 kilometers, isn't it? And it goes a certain way, but anything flying inside that, in theory, gains detect and avoid as it avoids everything in the sky.
I'm glad you mentioned that, Mark, because that brings us back as well. You know, a lot this trying to charge us potentially to roll out the end to this system. It's duplicating a lot of what Altitude Angel wants to do anyway, apart from the fact they'd be managing it, you know, they'd be managing it for commercial reasons. So it'd be even dafter to have, you know, an Altitude Angel, which has been done in the private sector, that will have more sensors and all Wizium managed, and then trying to repeat that in the public sector. To me, it all seems a little bit bonkers. I'd be letting the because the thing is with the private sector there is they're testing all the sensors for you anyway. You'll get the economies of scale with it being bought. Let it all be done, and then you could, where you need your own specific stuff, you could then use, buy into that stuff a lot cheaper, or even just tap into their particular sensors that are around your sites you want to cover, whatever else. There must be ways and means to stop making multiple systems.
Yeah, I think Richard would say no when they asked for the data. I think that might.
Oh yeah, it probably wouldn't want to. I don't know how that'd be handled, but if nothing else, they could buy, some of the technology off them, or the very fact that they're buying so much could just push the price down naturally anyway, so that you could just buy that direct from the suppliers. And because they're having to build so many more of the sensors, there will be an economy of scales that's brought all the sensor technology itself down.
Yeah, I know. It's all a madness. And look, we've been going over an hour here now. What else should we talk about before we go? Have we seen anything exciting?
There was that vertical takeoff turbine, sort of like cruise missile-y thing that looked very impressive and things, and you can land it unless you actually use it to blow something up, I suppose. One-time use then.
That's the thing, isn't it? That ability to come back means it's missed.
Yeah, exactly.
That's like, okay. And they say you can use it for search and rescue. Where was it?
Yeah, and also it may have good range, but it won't have good endurance.
No. It's cheap. It's that triangle, isn't it, of cheap and
because those small turbines are notoriously inefficient. So you can go places fast, but you can't loiter and you can't do search and rescue very easily unless you've got multiple of them.
Yeah, well, your loiter circle's quite big as it's loitering around.
Yeah, it's hooning round. That's right. And you won't be able to detect it at all by hearing. What's he got there? It's not a shaver.
Well, it won't be.
Oh, his new camera. It's got
My
a new
new
camera.
S5 2X.
Has it got an anamorphic lens?
It's going to have
No.
anamorphic. Yeah, that's
You
what
can get those cheap ones though; they're really good. I think they have like 2 films and water in it, and you just squeeze it, and it changes the shape of the lens, isn't it, Ian?
Oh yeah,
those ones
yeah.
you tweeted about. He's not going to say.
So was that worth the money? That camera?
You've well, this one is. I'm not. Yeah, you've lost me with what I've tweeted about. I tweet that much. I can't.
It was
even
a 400-pound anamorphic lens that looked like crap.
Oh yes.
Yeah.
The 1.33 times.
Yeah.
Sire or however it's pronounced.
Yeah.
The trouble is there's a lot. The trouble with YouTube now, it's created so many shills, people that just get the gear sent, that don't know about the topic they're dealing with, and they're just like, "Hey, buy this," and they always go, "It's cinematic." That's the word for everything. I want to take the piss. Actually, do want to go. This new battery that's come out, it makes your foot even more cinematic. I want to see how many people actually sucker at it.
Yeah, it's a shill-filled, attention-grabbing world, isn't it? There was that rocket thing. There was not only Paris has said no to UAM stuff, but a council, I've forgotten where the council was, said no way to vertiports as well. And they're not called vertiports anymore. I've forgotten what the new word is, and that's my
Crash
old mantra.
pads.
Yeah,
Helipads. Sort of helipad.
If the acronym
Impact
keeps
zone.
changing, if you keep
Helipad.
changing the acronym, then it's a technology that's about to disappear.
It's a helicopter landing pad.
Yeah.
Oh, and I see Whisper down here in New Zealand is claiming all sorts of new records for BV loss, like everybody that does his first piece of BV loss.
They sent me a very nice email about that. They sent some very poor photos for PR, some very poor photos, and I couldn't be asked to find examples of other people that have done exactly what they've said is the first time it's ever been done in the world. And in England, they've been flying manned helicopters out of Battersea to do trial runs for urban air mobility and stuff like that. And a lot of people are pointing out, well, nobody's actually said they're going to allow them to fly the direct routes over the centre of a city yet, and anything but over the water routes. So they've been trialling that. That would be a shill.
Sorry, hang on a minute. Using a helicopter, a known technology to fly down the heli routes. Oh my God!
Like helicopters have been doing for 50 years.
Wow, that's got to be really taxing, hasn't it? That's going to really prove the technology and the simulation will work. It's not something they do every freaking day in London. A helicopter goes down that heli route. It goes down one end, it turns around and then comes back. And guess what? They could even have tourists on board.
Well, it's certified and it exists, and you can fly it today. It's a thing. And the AAM crowd got mad with me because I suggested that the R44 that's been made completely autonomous is a perfect solution. Why are we bothering with all these other things? And they're, noise, redundancy, and you say, well, but the world's full of engineers that understand an R44. It's certified in every country in the world. It's
and if it's
auto rotates.
And auto rotates. And if it's electric, it'll be more. So let's face it, right? Helicopter would be more efficient because of the pitch blades. So it should be more efficient for its battery. Yeah. It can auto rotate for safety. And remind me again why I'm going to get in that air taxi that's fixed pitched, can't auto rotate, and I'm not happy about that.
Power's supposed to be back here now. This was only supposed to be an hour's power cut. It now seems to be, because it's another day, isn't it? That's what. This must be the first.
You're into bonus territory.
Yeah, bonus. Yeah.
You definitely need some more solar and more batteries over there.
Aren't they doing more nuclear in South Africa now?
God, no. God, hope
Probably.
no. I told you that the French turned up to fix one of our reactors, and they found out. I think it was there was no paperwork done on it for 12 years. So the French turned around and went home. So no way we're doing anywhere near that. So
no oil in the dipstick, eh?
No oil in the dipstick, exactly. Well, on that sort of note, actually, over here, pilots, helicopter pilots, funny enough, up in Joburg Airport, have been ramp checked and stopped because you can change and top up the oil in a helicopter. You can dipstick it. But then a South African Civil Aviation Authority inspector came in and fined a guy because he saw him doing it. He said, no, that's an engineer's job. They've started saying that engineers should do the pre-flight of the walk-around pre-flight of the aircraft. Licensed engineers. So
what?
So if that rolls out at every airfield, then that's general aviation stuff here. I think commercial aviation.
Well, no, think about it. If it's an electric helicopter, let's see them dipstick that one.
Well, as I've said in the past, this last should left me thoroughly depressed. Wonky Gold Cube. Who's that? Rev. Wow, Rev. Funny you should mention that. I was talking to Philip earlier today or sometime recently about that. He might even pop up next week in the flesh, and maybe we'll hear who the first winner of one of them their cubes is. So that might happen. But he's very busy back in Australia at the moment. Don't mind Marcel. It's mid-afternoon. He's likely to be drunk. Marcel, leave us something to drink, please. Marcel, send it across. Now, talking nonsense. What else have we seen before we go, gentlemen?
There's one update on the freedom of information. Cumbria Constabulary are still refusing to reply about the Mavic that was shot down. I'm going to leave that a couple of more days, and then it's going to get escalated internal review. Then it'll go to the ICO, and then I'll take that to the tribunal if we have to, but hopefully not. But it was just first they replied in such a way of like almost it was an oversight and we'll escalate it. So I thought, oh, cool, they're going to reply. But that was 20th September. That was requested.
Oh, but you did one last week. I can't remember when we spoke to it, where you got a reply in like 3 hours, didn't you?
That was CAA. Yeah, I've now, thanks to all this that's been going on recently, I've got 14 currently in at the moment. I would like to put more in, but I don't like to bombard someone with too many questions at once. So probably maximum put in at any one time is 3. But yeah, there'll be questions out at the back of these. So it's obviously covering about Sapient that we've seen today. So trying to find out other authorities that are using it, that kind of thing, and trying to get some costs around this. And then obviously the prosecutions that have happened for last year, just so we've got some of those figures to just analyse ourselves. But most of these freedom of informations that I put in recently, answers won't come back until the 4th of January. So we'll be into the new year. But it would be nice to, because there will be people going to want to know with this drone that shot down if something's been done. Because if not, we're then on. Well, especially now with this BBC thing, you're making the population even more paranoid. And if you're not going to cover them when they attack your drones, it's going to get a bit silly, isn't it?
Yeah, no, it's not cool. Have you got any videos coming up, Bruce? Or are you still not?
Yeah, I'll be putting some videos out fairly shortly. I've got a few in the pipeline. So mainly speaking to the regulatory changes proposed in the UK and a few other bits and pieces, which I think people need to know about. I realise we're not going to be able to change anything, but that doesn't mean we shouldn't keep a constant eye out and be aware of what is coming.
Things done in our name. And Mark, have you got any drone light shows on or sold on you, or how's that going?
No, we've just doing our finishing testing on a couple of swarms, which are due to Canada and USA. So we're just finishing off some testing. But other than that, no, Christmas is here. So hopefully getting everything sorted, because obviously you shut down for a week, so you're just trying to get everything sorted out for that week. Although we've got an event on Thursday where we've been entered for two awards for Startup of the Year and Product of the Year. If we'll win, we don't know, but it's a local thing, but it's good, so we're going to that.
Is that by the committee down at your local pub? Something like that?
It's a local enterprise award, so regional, so it's like the whole of Lincolnshire, if you like. But yeah,
very good. Well, good luck. Good luck.
Oh.
I've been using I got the CAD out again. There's the CAD. I've been using. I've realised I have missed a bit of a trick with these load sheddings in the daytime. I should be making stuff, so I started making stuff when the power's out. So that involves no 3D printing. So it reminds me of why in Africa 3D printing and modern manufacturing methods are a poor idea, because they don't work most of the time. So got the wood back out. I must admit I'm enjoying it. But there we are.
One thing I'm going to do is learn Arduino. So I'm trying to learn how to use an Arduino and code.
I'll just get ChatGPT to do it. It'll be fine.
Well, funny enough, if you ask it, it will write code for you. I have discovered this.
Yep.
But
often with mistakes in, though, it's worth adding.
Yeah, but you can ask it to do that.
Yeah, you got to read it.
I was going to say, Gary, there's a story that connects with Mark's area of skills, which you've had on your site, which you've not mentioned, so you may have forgotten about. But there's a company called Vergero that's apparently introducing some easy-to-use software for doing light shows.
So how we do it, we only design the drone. So what's really important about our drone is we only design the drone. The software we use is a company called Skybrush, Colmot's the company, Skybrush is the software. So theirs is so easy to use, their software, and it was the best out there. And because you pay per drone for the license, so when you buy the Swarm off us, we will either buy the license and include it in the Swarm price, or you can go direct to them. We don't mind how it's done. So
the point I was getting at, though, was going a step further, which I know is where the issue is, which is when you try and design something in the 3D, it's got like
Blender.
It's got this instead has got a UI where you can drop everything into place. It's got a timeline, so you can see it kind of happening. Whether it's as it looks, because obviously marketing videos you never know, but they're making it look quite.
It's getting easier.
Forward.
Yeah,
you should ever play with it in Blender. It's a lot easier than you think. There's a plug-in for Blender, and you lay them out the ground.
I know when you say the word Blender that I'll be spending a week just watching tutorials.
If you're really interested, there's some great videos on it. And as Gary says, so you can actually go to Skybrush and you download the plugin for Blender. So you go to Skybrush, download the plugin for Blender. You need Blender 3.6 though, so you don't use Blender 4 because Blender 4.
You've lost me already confused. I want the app there, and you go, draw me a donkey, and it does it, boom, and you go, cute, next one, and you press play, and it does all the things between.
And that's the idea is you can bring in an STL file, you can bring in an SVJ file, so many drones can then create the shape, you allocate it, and all drone software, design software does one thing that's really important. You tell it the minimum distance between drones. So if you tell it it can't go any closer than 3 meters, so as they transition between the shapes, they're all trying to do this, but keep 3 meters apart. You quite often find they get to about 2 meters, 2.5 meters, but you get the warnings on that because you don't want them any closer. So normally it's 3 meter spacing throughout the whole show. So as they change their shape, you never get involved in that. The software just does it for you. It's the initial shape. If you want to animate it, you get involved in that, but everything else you kind of avoid as you can. And the lighting, of course, you can choose your lightings.
We knew when they first come they were being built for military purposes, and lovely shows, but that's what they were for.
Yeah.
But
I
anyway,
mean,
I feel we're gonna go super long if we're not careful. So I'm gonna
Okay.
say going once, going twice, dear viewer, wherever you are in the world. Thank you very much for joining us, Bruce. Wonderful to have you back on. We were all very worried about you, and as they say, don't let the bastards grind you down. And I'm sure you won't. In fact, we know you won't. That's the sort of person you are. Dear viewer, we'll see you again, 2100 GMT next week. Thanks very much for being here. Cheers all. Bye bye. One button. It's not letting me end it. Can you end it? End it, Bruce. End it. End it. Get rid of it, Bruce.